One day my wife was complaining because we hit like 10, 250, maybe we're somewhere there. And she goes like, well, you screwed up the sauna.
If you have some person who lives out in the sticks in the UP and they built a nice big sauna with a stove they welded themselves, that's going to be a way different sauna experience.
Go find a new podcast, go find a new media source, go find something that, entertains you. But don't be afraid to, put that stuff away too and just sit down and ask the person next to you, how they're doing.
Guess who's coming to sauna? Hekilunta. Guess who's coming to sauna? Hekilunta.
So hi everyone. My name is Eero, but some people already know. So who are you guys?
Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Sam. I'm here alongside Risto for another episode of The Upper Bench. Risto, how's it going today?
It's going good. I have my pink hue video thing on. I don't know how to get rid of that. Well.
You look like you got some sun. I mean, it looks like you got for our online viewers, it looks like Risto's got a little suntan going.
No, whatever my camera setup is just pink casting everything, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm actually getting some decent color today. But it's stormy outside, so I'm not getting all the crazy light from the windows, but my ring light seems to be doing decent. And hopefully I don't look that hungover.
After all, it's a Sunday. New York is beautiful. New York has been great for the past couple of days. And I actually went to the beach, which is right next to my house. So I might be a little red in my face, but I should have that red hue going on otherwise. So what's going on in our sauna world in this beautiful day? And also New York is going to get some storms soon. But anyway, so I just came from my travels. I was in Finland sauna bathing a lot. And we did one episode. The last episode was done there. And then I also went to Houston, Texas, and New Orleans, but I did not do any sauna there. What about you guys?
Just a few recent sessions in my home sauna, but ended up getting some great oak wood from a coworker of mine, and it was a tree that had fallen in a recent storm, and luckily it was dead and pretty dried out, and I put that to the test, and man, I was getting 210 degrees like nothing. So great piece of wood. I'm glad I got it for free. And I've got enough probably for another half a dozen sessions.
Yeah, oak is awesome. That's like 90% of what we've burnt, or 80% of what we burnt in our sauna. Little birch, little emerald ash. Oh yeah, because they're taking all the ash trees down, so we've also burned some ash.
Yeah. Luckily down here in South Carolina, the emerald ash borers I don't think they've migrated this far down, but we don't have a lot of ash trees. But we do have some really cool different species of wood. But a lot of the stuff that I'm getting is some maples, just trying to find some hardwoods, for the stoves. But maples seem to be pretty abundant, as well as a couple of different like cherries and fruit trees, if you can find decent chunks of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was burning in Finland. I was sauna bathing basically every day, and I was burning birch and then a little bit of pine to go with that. But of course, you should not use probably pine that much. But it was mostly birch, and it was excellent wood.
So why do you say that you shouldn't use pine that much? I was just having
a discussion
with someone.
Yeah, I don't know, but it is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've got a good answer for that. At least from what I've heard. And somewhat of what I've experienced, pine burns very fast, very hot. So you're not going to get a very long, longevity out of it. I use a little bit of pine to start my fire, I've always got little chunks of 2x4 cutoffs in a bin, in my wood shop. So I always use a little bit of pine to get it started, but I won't throw pine in there, at abundance, because it burns very, very hot. And unless you've got a really heavy duty stove, you can do some damage to some of those metals if you're burning it that hot, that fast. You're turning your sauna stove into a little bit of a rocket stove with pine. It's going to burn it up, it's going to eat it up, but you are going to definitely reach some limits with your stove if you're burning exclusively like a soft wood like pine.
And there's the soot issues, right? That they can be that chimney burn or whatever you call that thing, right?
Yeah, the creosote or the creosol,
Yes.
or something like that. But yeah, I know, and pine does have a lot of oil and a lot of just resin in it naturally. So you are getting a lot smokier burn, I feel like, from a pine than you would like a nice hot piece of oak that's burning pretty cleanly and efficiently.
Yeah, I've heard those things. Sometimes it's difficult in the sauna world to know how much it's overblown, because you can have like a truth like that where it is true, it is accurate, but then there'll be people that's like, like I've been burning pine for 40 years,
Yeah.
and like no issue at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, if I lived in probably like the Pacific Northwest and I had a tract of land and all I had was pine trees or something like that, I'd find a way to make it work. Granted, I would probably either retrofit my stove or have a custom stove that was maybe a little bit overkill, so it didn't matter what I was burning in there.
Sure. Yeah.
But still, it's interesting because you see those, you've seen pictures with people with they have that pipe burn thing going on, and that's super dangerous. When I was growing up in Finland, what you knew is that you had to put your smoke sauna a little away from the main house, because that would at some point would burn down. But that is super scary, that thing, when you have like the cold fluids is in burning, in burns and stuff. So what else is going on? How are we doing in with the social media?
Great. You know what? I have a little bit of an announcement. I mean, for those that may follow or may not follow, but I've actually taken a step back from the Reddit forums. So I'm going to focus more of my time with NAS and a few other ventures. But I'm letting Reddit kind of do its thing. I think it's time for a little change of pace, and we've got a couple of different moderators now on the team that have some great visions. I may not agree with 100% of the direction that everything's going in, but you can't win them all. So I'm taking a step back, and it's been refreshing to just be a regular old member again, not having to worry about anything that other people are saying. So and I'm just going to put this out there as a little bit of disclaimer. This goes for everybody out there. If you're having trouble with social media, or if you're addicted to social media, or you find yourself it's consuming a lot of your time, it's okay to take a step back, and it's okay to turn that phone off. Don't be afraid to delete some apps once in a while and take a little bit of a break. It'll be there when you come back. And it's okay to take a break sometimes. So just a little PSA for everybody out there. But no, I'm really happy being just a regular old member again, and seeing fun posts and seeing what people are doing. I think the DIY crowd right now is having a heyday. There's a big push for small business owners right now. I think you're seeing a lot of mobile saunas getting popping up around the United States, not just in the Midwest anymore or in some of these other areas. They're starting to come to all the corners of the US, and it's really fun to see what some of these people are doing, and the visions that some of these public saunas may take on. So it's been fun to watch. I've been talking to a few people here in the Greenville area that are super excited about what sauna is doing, and are hoping to expand on sauna here in Greenville shortly. So hoping to be a part of that. That'd be a lot of fun.
That would be cool. I think wherever people are, there is drama. You know, sometimes we think that it's only restricted to social media these days. I think that definitely makes things slipperier and easier. You know, I can just yell at 10 different people before noon that don't live anywhere near me. But if you like read old books when they're having debates about stuff, it's like, oh my goodness, this sounds like Twitter in the 1500s.
Yeah.
So
It's been the same, song and dance for millennia. Everybody says, people just don't want to work, and then, you can find the first year of the Wall Street Journal, you can find articles, it's really hard to find workers. I mean, it's just the same song and dance over and over and over. So it's funny. I mean, these things are just doomed to repeat themselves. There's a picture of a bunch of people riding the train, commuting to work in Chicago, and they were all reading the newspaper. They were all buried in the newspaper. And then they had a similar picture of today, everyone's staring at their phone. Is there a difference? Nobody was talking to each other. They were all buried in the content they were being served up. And it's just kind of repeating itself. So it's fun to be able to hopefully this highlights to people to go find new content. Go find a new podcast, go find a new media source, go find something that, entertains you, but don't be afraid to, put that stuff away too, and just sit down and ask the person next to you, how they're doing. I think that the sauna community is about that. It's about sitting on a bench and wanting to see how your neighbors are doing. And you know what, if they want to chat, they're going to chat. If they don't, they'll let you know politely, but it's nice to engage once in a while. Yeah,
that's real sauna community. That getting in a sauna with someone and just chatting about life and what's going on and whatever. Those are like some of the best conversations. But
100%.
We do have our own drama online in the sauna community. And we've, since I've been into sauna for the past 7-8 years, there's been several issues that have cropped up over the time. And we're kind of in the midst of one of those right now. Where do you guys see like where those drama issues are in the sauna enthusiast world right now?
Well, I would say, I should be following way more social media than I'm actually doing right now, but and also it's just like, there's surprisingly many, these discussion forums, say only on Facebook alone. Like there's one, I can't remember what it was called, but there's like 22,000 people or something, involved, up to a level. But clearly something that has been going on for a while now that I've been involved with, I've gotten a lot of emails about on this topic, is the radiation issue. Radiation of the heater and convective heat, and actually also is like, how do we actually even, can we measure a good load? Is that like, are there ingredients that because it's one of those things, is like you feel it when you have it and you feel it when you don't have it, but are we ever going to be able to slice that thing up, and show that, there's some clear like CO2 levels. That's like, depending on the sauna, if it's say, I'm just saying, an electric heater with no ventilation, there's a good chance that the CO levels are high, so something like that. But it gets more complicated when we start talking about, things like radiation, because there's always going to be radiation, but what is a manageable level of radiation and what's less so, I think.
So when you say radiation, like what are we talking about? Is this like radiation from like a nuclear power plant, or what's going on with the radiation?
Oh, that's a very good question, because I'm so into this thing, I didn't even think about it. Obviously, not all the listeners and watchers understand what we're trying to say. So the point that I understand when we're talking about radiation is that the heater itself radiates direct heat towards the sauna users. And it's kind of, that I'm, and I want to hear your comments, obviously, like I always do. For my first impression, which might be totally wrong, it's like that direct radiate heat in my book maybe comes a little bit more from the banya world than the Finnish style sauna.
Sure.
And I don't see that clearly as I don't see that as a problem, because I've been to many banyas where I actually seek radiation, as long as it's not overwhelming. The overwhelming direct heat is obviously, it's a huge issue.
Yeah, the first sauna that I ever built, I had a custom kind of homemade steel welded stove. And I didn't have a lot of basically thermal protection around it. What I did was I did put a wall, a small wall of bricks behind it so it wouldn't scorch the wood, and it was far enough from the other sides of of the sauna where it wasn't going to cause any damage. But you could definitely tell on your shins, when you sat in that sauna, because you kind of faced the front of the stove, you could definitely tell on the front of your shins you were getting a radiant heat, that it was kind of burning your shins up a little bit because you were so close to the wood stove. It wasn't so much the ambient air temperature, but that was the heat coming directly off the stove. So I think that's what a lot of the argument is about, where are you so close to the stove that you're getting all this heat from the stove directly, or is it circulating in the sauna, maybe with some airflow, where the air temperature is so hot, whatever temperature you're trying to desire. But with a wood stove, I feel like this argument gets it's a hard argument, because you've got so much airflow coming into the sauna because you're burning wood. The natural function of a wood stove in a sauna is going to draw a lot of air from outside your sauna into the sauna so that it can create combustion. Fire cannot happen without fuel and oxygen and heat. Those are the three things that a fire needs. And so it's going to start drawing in air. So it's going to naturally convect in there, but then it's how much heat is actually coming off of that stove and affecting the user, compared to how much is that stove heating up the rocks, which is heating up the air, which is then circulating in the room, creating an ambient air temperature. So this argument is tough, because I know with my wood stove, I sit pretty far away from it, and I have a brick surround. I don't get a lot of radiant heat from my wood stove, but I'm a good 4 or 5 feet away from it. But if you've got a small sauna and you're only 2 or 3 feet away from your wood stove, it's just physics. You're not gonna be able to eliminate the radiant heat coming off of that. You can do some things in the design of the stove to maybe baffle that or maybe damper that, but you're going to have some radiant heat.
Yeah. And so, I think some of the discussion has been around, there's been some question about whether or not a setup like that, where you're having that intense heat from the sauna heater, is that even a sauna? So for me, definitely I fall in the camp of that's still a sauna. Our first sauna that we ever had, and we'd already used a bunch of saunas by then, was a barrel, where it was wood burning, but you're sitting close to the stove.
Yeah.
And we had many wonderful sauna rounds in there. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you wanted to, you could bathe, you could use water in there, you could create steam. Granted, the steam didn't come down very low. It wasn't ideal, but you could create steam and wave a little towel around in there,
Yep.
And you could have good community. This barrel sauna was in our good friend's backyard because we didn't have space, so we shared it. We had a cold plunge, and sometimes we'd have some sausage and stuff with it. So we had, many wonderful elements. I have pleasant and fond memories of that sauna.
Yep.
But that being said, when we came time to design and build our own sauna, it was much different, you know, and after using a ton of different saunas around North America, you know, we came to kind of independently, somewhat independently, a similar conclusion that lots of other sauna cultures have come to, which is that intense radiant heat is less comfortable and less desirable. It's kind of, I explain it to this way for people. It's like when you're cooking in your oven, and before you put in your frozen pizza, they say preheat the oven to 400 or whatever temperature it is before you put the pizza in. If you put the pizza in ahead of time, while it's heating up, it's to raise the air temp to heat up the oven, it's kicking out really intense heat and it will scorch and burn your pizza, you know? So if you have a sauna where you're having like a lot of intense radiant heat, you have the experience of being that frozen pizza that's getting scorched rather than surround like a gentle, strong, intense surrounding heat.
And I think there's a point here. All of those saunas that have intense radiant heat can get to the soft ambient heat given time. Okay, if you've overcooked your sauna a little bit, maybe you put too many pieces of oak in there, you've got it going 220 degrees and that's too hot for you, you know, that's not comfortable. Let it die down. Let, you know, crack the door open a little bit, let it you know, cool off a little bit to where you like it. You know, if that stove isn't, you know, roaring fire, you're going to minimize that radiant heat and you're going to have a much better, I think, in my opinion, a much better experience. So it's not to say that those saunas that kick out a lot of radiant heat are bad. You might just be using them at the wrong time. So in your heat up, cool down, whatever phase, you might just be hitting it at the wrong time. And that's getting to know your stove. That's getting to know what you enjoy in your sauna session. And I think is half the fun of owning a wood burning stove is finding the sweet spots, finding what does well and experimenting. You know, because every session is not going to be 100% identical to the previous session, for the, you know, just that fact.
That's very true. That's a good way to put it. I was just thinking, you know, my experience now that I was there in Finland for a month, you know, we don't have a stainless steel wood. It's a wood burning heater what we have, but like one day my wife was complaining because we hit like 250 maybe somewhere there, and she goes like, well, you screwed up the sauna. And I said to her, like, don't you worry. And I just opened the door for a couple of minutes and closed it up. We're good to go again.
Boom.
Yeah. Problem fixed.
Yeah. And there's so many variables. That's the thing that people should keep in mind. In my opinion, some of the conversation online around this topic and other sauna topics has gotten too confident. You know, we should keep in mind that you can't just throw a few science words at it. It's, even if you understand the science of things, it's very complicated. You know, you might be missing a few variables and you can't know which variables you're missing. So one thing that rarely gets talked about, which you already brought up, Sam, is the size of the sauna. A large sauna mitigates much of these issues, you know, because so I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is true, like you should always double check your science and not rely on it too hard, but that how you feel the radiant heat decreases pretty quickly the further you get away, like some sort of like inverse of the square. I don't remember.
Yeah, like it's an exponential after whatever 2 feet or something like that. Yeah.
And so if you have some person who lives out in the sticks in the UP and they built a nice big sauna with a stove they welded themselves, that's going to be a way different sauna experience than someone who bought a 4x5 kit or a barrel sauna, you know, and you're sitting a foot from the stove.
Yes, 100%. So, I mean, in my home sauna, it's a 6 foot by 9 foot, wood burning sauna. I have a commercial heater from a very, very common brand. It's the same style as every other small wood burning heater that would fit that footprint of a sauna, and it does just fine. If you want to sit right next to the heater and really cook yourself out, you can do that all day long. But if you want to sit away from it and have really good heat, enveloping you and coming from the bottom up, then you can do that too. And there are days where I might want to do either or. Maybe it's a cool day. Maybe I'm feeling a little funky. Maybe I've got, whatever going on, and I just want to really, really burn it up. I'll sit right next to that thing. There's some days where I just maybe really want to burn it up. But, I would say the majority of my time is, sat, on a little bit further away where I'm getting a more even distribution of heat. Because I can even tell when I sit too close to the heater, the side of my body that is closer to my, to the heater, there's a physical difference when you stand outside of that. You can tell there's more red there. The skin is much more affected by that radiant heat. But to each their own. I'm not saying either way is right or wrong, because I think what a lot of people don't realize about their sauna arguments online is that 95% of the enjoyment of a sauna is perception, is reality. I mean, if I'm in a great sauna and I'm having a good time, it's 100%. There might be glaring issues with it, right? But if I'm with good people and we're having a good time, I'm getting a good sweat, and I can get lost into, the moment. That's a great sauna experience. Then let it roll. But there's also going to be times where I might be in an A+ sauna that was designed so well, but guess what? It's overcrowded. And now I'm sitting on the foot bench, and I'm right next to the heater, and I'm not having a good time because I want to be up on the upper bench, but I can't. There's too many people. That sauna, it's not about that sauna anymore. But yeah, I had a bad experience with it, so now in my brain, I could do without that one. And people don't realize that enough, because the people that criticize other people's, especially creations, their homemade saunas, it's a personal attack. And I think constructive criticism is good. And I think people also need to realize on the front side, when you're posting things that you've already made and you're asking for comments, people are going to ask you to maybe do things where you might have to rework something, or maybe it doesn't go, maybe it suggests something that goes against to what you already did. So are you looking for kudos, or are you actually looking for design suggestions? So people need to curb their, expectations with some of the comments that they get as well. These are anonymous forums. These are online Facebook rants. These are wherever you might find this kind of stuff. And the general Joe Blow is going to say, I don't like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, and it's kind of a complicated issue all around. A lot of the heat of the issue comes from the consequences of it feels like you're critiquing my sauna, or how I like to do sauna, or the sauna company that I like or I work with, so it does become very threatening that way. And kind of, I think people, it's just like, just leave me alone, don't say anything. And I think how we say things really does matter. It should be obviously right from the get-go. It's like, you can sauna how you would like to sauna. But that being said, we can't just leave it there, because the state of sauna understanding and the state of the sauna scene in North America is very poor. And there are consequences to that. Some of those consequences are like, you can't just say, just let people like live and let live, and that's the end of the story. Because one of those consequences was, I liked sauna okay early in my marriage and growing up. You know, if we would go to a hotel, I would be like, let's go check it out. Didn't love it. You know, it's not like I would ever talk to a random person about it, you know?
Yeah.
But Julie, my wife, hated it. You know, it was uncomfortable, stuffy, you know, so in her head, and I've met so many people like this that had decided, I'm not a sauna person. I don't like that. You know, live and let live. My live is without a sauna. And it's not that she wasn't a sauna person. It's just that the state of things had gotten so poor in the United States that all the saunas she had ever used were very terrible representations of what sauna is. So there is a place for the sauna community and us sauna enthusiasts to, you know, just very kindly and politely, but also firmly say, like, here is a better expression. Here's how we can do better. Here's what we should avoid. And there are like real world consequences for that.
I agree 100%. And as you said, Risto, also before, I think as a rule, maybe, you know, the direct radiant heat is not that as desirable as the enveloping heat, as what Sam was talking about. At the same time, and I repeat myself, unfortunately, always, but I live in New York. So it's just like public sauna is a banya for me. Public sauna is a banya. But there are more and more saunas coming, you know, with actually the name sauna. But back in the day, particularly, and what is basically about, you know, depending on where you sit, banya, again, it's about radiant heat, because the stove is huge. They are extremely big stuff. So you do have to know where you sit inside the sauna, because you don't want to sit in the upper bench next to that stove, because you're gonna burn yourself. So there's not a question. So it's kind of a, you know, you understand, you know, where the heater is, and you understand where you want to sit, and like Sam said, you know, one day maybe closer, the other day maybe more far out. But I think the industry, you know, as a rule, have been going like more to that enveloping, you know, the convective, you know, that kind of a thing. But you know, if this is definitely not our main concern, you know, the radiant heat / whatever heat there is, there's a lot of more issues. And one thing, I don't know if we have time for it today, but like, we at NAS are really working hard to find a way to separate between the, you know, the one and done people and the people who actually sauna bait, and then the you know, the people who are doing the rounds. And how do you separate, because everything is a sauna, and that's how North America works. An infrared cabin is a sauna, you know, barrel obviously is also called a sauna, but we have to differentiate these, you know. I'm not, you know, we're not going to go that deep that we're going to differentiate between the you know, the radiant heat people / the other people. No, that's not where we're headed. But how do we lift that real thing that we all love? How do we lift that up where it belongs?
Right. I mean, because I think, you know, like you said, Eero, there are going to be different crowds in the sauna community. You know, I've found, talking to a few of these different crowds over the years, you know, especially, you know, the ones, the sauna users that maybe they just use a sauna for 10 minutes in the morning. They start their day that way. They do 10, 15 minutes. It's one session, whatever it is, whatever length. They do one session in the morning, and that's how they start their day. They get out, they shower, they get dressed, they go to work, they do whatever. And maybe when they get home, maybe they do one session. Okay. It's whatever they want it to be. It's whatever they feel they're getting benefit from. But would we call that person a traditional sauna bather? Maybe not, because are they really cooling off? Are they getting back in? Are what elements, are they going outside? Are they, there's a million different check boxes that we could potentially add to these different groups, right? But the one standard is, they're using sauna, and are they using it appropriately? And what is appropriately? Who says that, right? I think if I bought a product, right, and I spent more than $5,000 on it, because I think you'd be hard pressed to find a good sauna product in North America for under $5,000 unless you actually built it yourself. You're probably gonna feel like, hey, I get to use this thing however I want. I just bought this thing, and I'll be damned if somebody's going to tell me, or some forum or a bunch of weird looking old dudes that like sauna are going to tell me any different. I'm going to use this thing exactly how I want to. Now, how do we influence that individual, I think, is a great question, because do they get to say, should they should they use it a certain way, or is it should be recommended? So we could go down a lot of rabbit holes there, but I like the fact that we're having the conversations, especially at NAS, about where are some of these standards? Because I think there are plenty of conversations here where we do need to draw some lines in the sand about who we allow to say is a traditional Finnish sauna, okay, and who is that user. We're not certifying users by any means, but there's going to be establishments out there that claim to have the best sauna experience in North America, and it might consist of some cucumbers on your eyes and 4 minutes in an infrared box. But if somebody doesn't step in and say, hey, that is not, a good experience, we're going to have everything in between. It's going to be the Wild West for a little while.
Right. And I think we as the sauna community need to give each other a little more of the benefit of the doubt. The most popular quote unquote saunas you can buy on Amazon are little steam tents, or like you said, Sam, your local one might be infrared thing where you go in for 30 minutes with cucumbers on your eyes. The people that are arguing with each other in the sauna enthusiast community all agree that that's not sauna, so there is, I think we can forget that how much we share values with each other,
Right.
And there is a balance to be struck, and pretty much everyone agrees on that. It's just we might disagree where we're drawing the lines. So we have to afford someone like we have to afford them the opportunity to draw a line, and we can disagree and we can be vocal about that, but it's not right to say I get to draw a line but you don't get to. I get to say where I draw the line is correct, but you don't get to have an opinion on that.
Yeah,
I think we should both afford each other the right, because I'm sure all three of us draw lines in different areas for sauna and disagree, but we could afford each other the right to do that and then just discuss where that is. But
right.
Yeah, I think we disregard tradition at our own peril. Maybe it's not that strong in the sauna world, in our lives and history as countries and people. We disregard tradition at our own peril, and we risk making the mistakes of the past. But also, I think we can also put tradition on too much of a pedestal, where it's like, this is tradition and it can't ever change, and we're going to be rigid about it and shout anyone down who doesn't agree with it. So there's kind of like this right balance of being informed by tradition, but also being okay with tradition changing and growing.
Yeah.
we are almost out of time, so I'm gonna make my last comment, and then you guys do the same. But I totally agree with you, Risto. And kind of the thing is that I was shy when we started NAS 20 years ago. I wanted to downplay the Finnish part because I thought that that's too much. You can't like narrow the sauna to that Finnish style sauna alone. Obviously, I come from that camp, so the only way for me to sauna is the Finnish style sauna, excluding the part that I've been going for 2 decades to banyas here in New York, but they resemble each other. But yeah, that's a very good point of view.
Yeah, I think, when I really look at it, especially from someone who did moderate online content and somebody who has contributed, just in my free time to online content about sauna. If you're going to be extremely negative or extremely difficult with how you're interacting with others online about sauna, you're detracting from the sauna community. And I'll put it at that, because I think we need to be celebrating everything that gets put out there. We are still a very small subset of content, and just the sauna culture deserves better. We need to be lifting each other up. We need to be offering our help and offering our most positive critiques and offering solutions to what we critique. Okay, instead of saying, hey, that looks stupid, and leaving it at that, say, hey, you know what, I would love to see if you did a X, Y, and Z, and you know what, here's some examples of what I'm talking about, or hey, here's how I think you should probably go about challenge, that solving that problem in whatever you're asking about. Okay, we need to do better as a community of raising all sauna, because it is at this point sauna, anything, what's the old saying, rising tide, it raises all ships, right? So I think we need to be positive when we do speak to each other out there on the internet, and doing a better job of highlighting why are we saying what we're saying, because we can so oftentimes just shoot something out there and not have to defend it and not have to back it up with any facts or figures, and it's an opinion. And if it is an opinion, say it's an opinion. But really, the moral of the story is, when I post something online, I understand I'm going to be potentially served up with negative things or things that I may not care about, but that's up to me and how I interact with them. But it is up to you guys to make sure that you're being a good steward of sauna, because if the sauna community as a whole is viewed as a bunch of, just closed-minded, narrow thinking, you're never going to change the way I think about something, and we're these crotchety old dudes, not enough people are going to want to join the community and really benefit from all the things that we do love about the sauna community. So make sure you're just putting your best foot forward when you're representing sauna, especially online.
Yeah, and it's, I would encourage people, because most people in North America haven't stumbled into the sauna world from having grown up with it, from it having being part of their cultural heritage. I would encourage those people to, even if you're not that interested in it, still dig into it, because you don't know what you don't know. There are some rich, wonderful gems of a practice in the sauna world, in that tradition, in that heritage, the community of when families would get together once a week and maybe only one of the families had a sauna, the practical nature of using it to bathe, and it's during the harvest time and you're bathing every day after working really hard in the sauna, the vita, the sausage, the food, there is just a richness and a robustness there that's wonderful, that as you discover that as a sauna lover, and then you share that with other people, they'll be driving home afterwards thinking, where can I put one of these in my backyard?
Right. No, I love it.
I feel that, and I don't know which is which, and this is what we're gonna be talking, hopefully, in the future, is that I feel that within the sauna, the phenomenon of sauna, there are warm boxes, there are hot boxes, there are dry saunas, and then there are saunas, and then there are actually the very good ones. But I don't know how to make the division. Thank you guys so much. It's been an excellent talk once again.
Yes, thank you, Eero. Thank you, Risto. Thank you all for tuning in, and join us next time when we're talking about who knows what.